switch things over and bring on Jim Bernau. He's the founder and CEO, and the company name is Willamette Valley Vineyards. They're traded on the Nasdaq as WVVI. Let's bring him on. We'll go ahead and get started. Jim, how you doing?
Good morning, Michael. I'm sitting here in the roomage room in the cellar of our sparkling winery.
Fantastic. All right, really interesting location. Thanks for coming to us from there. Where exactly is this located? Where are you guys at?
This sparkling winery is called Domaine Willamette. It's one of Willamette Valley Vineyards holdings. It's brand new, and it's located in the Dundee Hills of the Willamette Valley.
Fantastic. Okay, let's start off at a high level, right? You're coming to us from an interesting location. We want to hear more about that. But give us a little high-level overview of the company. What is Willamette Valley Vineyards? What is the background of the company? Tell us a little bit about the company as a whole.
You know, the Oregon wine industry is actually very young. For us at Willamette Valley Vineyards, we're one of the very early in the industry here. We've been growing since for over 40 years, since 1983. And Oregon has taken its place among some of the finest wine growing regions in the world in just that short period of time. In the Willamette Valley, we specialize in Pinot Noir. And of course, that makes great still wine, red wine, but also wonderful sparkling wine, which you see in the Riesling racks behind me.
Fantastic. Okay, so let's dive into a little bit more of the business and what you guys actually do there. You guys have a really rich history, and some of the notes that I'm looking at here and some of the things that we researched, it spanned from you having wine being served at the White House to appearing on the TV show Friends. You guys have a really diverse background and a lot of really interesting history here. So can you walk us through a little bit more of the background of the company and the history of how all this got started and what makes Willamette so unique as a company?
You know, it's really not that long ago, Michael, that it was discovered that in the Willamette Valley, Pinot Noir and other thin-skinned grape varieties could be grown so well and made into world-class wine. The company I started a little over 40 years ago, has now grown into an ownership of wine enthusiasts of over 24,000 wine enthusiast owners and about 9,000 wine club members. And we principally focus on Pinot Noir, but we also grow and make wines from other unique growing regions of Oregon.
Terrific. Okay, so as far as I know here, right, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Willamette was the first ever winery to go public. Can you walk us through the decision to go public, what that process was like, and what a difference it's made for you guys since that happened?
You know, when I started many years ago, I wanted to have a winery that was owned by wine enthusiasts because I believe that was the best way to form and grow our organization. And it's given us great strength. I started first we actually conducted the very first self-underwritten public stock offering in the country called Regulation A. And became actually the poster child of community-based, crowd-funded companies. And since then, a whole fabric of state and federal laws have been created around the experience. When we started doing this back as a public company in 1989. And so that and over that time, it's allowed us to plant more vineyards, to build more winery capacity, and to provide excellence in various types of wines to consumers throughout the United States and in various parts of the world.
Terrific. Okay, so knowing the significance of going public and where you guys have come from since that decision was made, what's the current financial position of the company like? What is cash on hand like? What are financial operations like? Can you take us through the business side of Willamette a little bit?
Yes, I mean, we've grown, from what I started, a chainsaw and an old tractor, into a company now that has substantial equity invested in it, both in terms of common and preferred stock. Most of our capital comes from preferred stock, which is the offering we're doing now. We're offering preferred stock directly to wine enthusiasts, and that is really what's allowed us to continue to grow so rapidly. Some of the things that the reason why wine enthusiasts are interested in investing in our company is because of the benefits that they receive. as well as having that strong financial strength behind the company. For example, the facility I'm sitting in is owned entirely by the shareholders. There's not one nickel of bank debt in this new sparkling winery. So there's a lot of safety in investing in our company because of how much equity, how much capital is brought to bear by our shareholders.
Very interesting. Okay, makes a lot of sense. And another thing we want to cover as well is the environmentalism side of thing. When you're talking about the world as a whole, environmentalism has become a much bigger topic over recent months and years. What do you guys do at Willamette when it comes to environmentalism, protecting our environment, trying to keep things healthy and green? What are you guys doing at the company to try and drive that initiative ahead?
You know, this is very important. This issue that you talked about, it's very important to us as wine growers and winemakers, but it's also very important to wine consumers because they're experiencing now in their own communities the dangers of not looking after our environment properly. And so what we do is helped start an organization that provides very strict standards for how you grow your grapes to make sure you're not harming the soil, you're not harming other living creatures or harming your neighbors. And so we've implemented a number of strategies. One of them, for example, is we collect rainwater during the winter, and we use that rainwater to drip irrigate our vines, which means that we don't have to draw from the river during the summer, which would harm the fish, and we don't have to drill and pull it out of the ground at this vineyard location where we're starting this process of retaining rainwater that's otherwise wasted by flowing out into the Pacific. So the importance of walking as softly as we possibly can in everything we do and protecting the environment and our customers is really important to us, and it's important to all Oregon wineries.
Absolutely. Okay, really good breakdown. Now, when you're talking about what you guys produce and everything, what does it look like as far as the fermentation process? How many employees do you guys have at your groweries and your wineries and the places you're actually growing these grapes? Take us through the side of the process a little bit of how your product actually comes to the market.
Michael, this is a great time actually to be talking to you because we're right in the middle of harvest. And boy, is it an amazing harvest. It's, we're in the Willamette Valley, Michael. This is a pretty cool climate state. And that's one of the reasons why Pinot Noir performs so well in the Willamette Valley. And actually, it's going to be 82 degrees this afternoon, Michael. We have had one of the most idyllic, dry, warm harvests. And that's actually been happening much more frequently, which is one of the reasons why these grapes and these wines are performing so well and have over a number of years. So we're bringing that fruit in. We're about halfway through our harvest. We'll be fermenting those grapes and going through a process. Some of those wines will be released fairly early. You probably heard of our whole cluster fermented Pinot Noir, which doesn't stay in the cellar that long. We'll release that in late spring of next year. And then some of our other Pinot Noirs will age for over 18 months in barrel. For example, here behind me, you see sparkling wine that's going through a secondary fermentation called method traditionnel, which is the classic method in which the champagne producers use. That secondary fermentation produces those bubbles in the bottle. And we actually lay these bottles down for 18 months in this cellar while they ferment in the bottle. And so it'll take sometimes up to 2.5 years before when we go from grape to the release to the customer.
Interesting. Okay, awesome. Great learning a little bit more about the process here. And I think it's really interesting, too, what you mentioned where you guys are having these idyllic harvests and everything is going really well, where we've had so many issues with the supply chains and growing conditions and crops and everything else across the world, not just in the U.S. So if you're looking at the macro scene as a whole, your industry and across the world, not just the wine industry, but the food industry as a whole even, let's look at that. Do you see any major headwinds that you're concerned about for the wine industry, the food industry, anything that we should be concerned about in terms of weather, of crops, of supply chain issues? Anything you see on that front?
Michael, it's not easy to tell you this, that somehow we here in the North Willamette Valley are kind of an unusual beneficiary of the changes that have occurred in climate. And that's one of the reasons why Oregon is performing so well over the last 15 years. The growing conditions of producing high quality Pinot Noir in particular, thin-skinned grape varieties like Chardonnay, match this change in weather precisely. And so we're one of the few beneficiaries in agriculture and in industry from actually changes in climate.
Fantastic. Okay, and yeah, again, I can see why that statement wouldn't be easy to make, right? Because again, when you have so many issues going on around you, but it's benefiting you guys, it's obviously a difficult thing, but it's good for Willamette and the fact that you guys are able to succeed through all of the difficult conditions around you.
If you look to see what's happening, the California winemakers are coming to Oregon. We have French winemakers coming to Oregon. Oregon has become that last frontier. And where we have very sophisticated California and French wine producers that understand where the future lies. And it's here in the North Willamette.
Fantastic. Okay, makes a lot of sense. Now, let's talk a little bit about recent news. We want to talk about the earnings report that you guys had most recently. What highlights would you throw out from your earnings report that you guys released last, and what things should investors be looking at inside of it?
Well, the first thing to point out to you is that we've gone through a substantial capital formation and growth plan. And so what people will do when they look at the balance sheet and the income statement is they'll see that preferred stock capital being deployed. So we actually, over the last year, have developed a business that that has the capacity to double our revenues and our earnings. And we're now deploying that and activating that. For example, this winery just opened after an enormous investment that has been made. We've opened, for example, 3 outposts. In other words, we've taken the Oregon wine story on the road into suburban areas like Lake Oswego, Vancouver, Washington, Folsom, California, where consumers could come in contact with our brand in tasting room restaurant settings, which is an important part of our growth strategy. So we now have 380 employees. In 2 years, we'll have 500. And our business model allows us to form capital, selling preferred stock into these communities, and raise the capital, but also the customer base to properly support our new outposts as we continue to grow. And my intention is to grow across the country.
Terrific. Now, there's another fun question I want to ask here too, but there's a saying about Willamette that you guys have trademarked and that you did in 2009. Is that right? Could you give us more about that?
You know, the people, especially east of the Mississippi, mispronounce the name Willamette. And so, yes, when we teach people to pronounce Willamette by saying, it's Willamette, damn it. And that's a way for people to remember it's not Willamette or some other pronunciation. And so, yes, we actually have trademark. We own the trademark Willamette Valley Vineyards. If you think about that, how significant that will be in the future as more people understand the quality that's coming out of the Willamette Valley AVA. We also own the trademark Willamette. And so the new winery, the sparkling winery, Domaine Willamette, will someday take its place among the finest sparkling wine brands in the world.
Amazing. It's a funny side note. It's an interesting thing, and we wanted to hear more about that. It was one of our favorite things we learned doing the prep for this before we came on. But love to hear that. The other thing we also want to talk about is the chief operations officer that you guys brought on over the summer. When it comes to personnel at Willamette, how has that impacted things moving forward so far? What kind of difference has it made, and what is the team made up like at Willamette? How important are the members that run the company?
We have a remarkable staff. We have a lot of women, in fact, although the new chief operating officer is Joe Padilla, who has a lot of experience in helping us operationally. The company's grown very rapidly, and we needed that. We needed to have that level of sophistication to make sure that we were effective in implementation of our growth strategies. And he's been here since May, and we're building a management team that will continue to support our rapid growth.
Terrific. And let's talk about that next, right? When you look ahead for the future for the company, what does that growth strategy look like? What is Willamette going to do over the next quarter, over the next year? What is it going to look like as you guys go forward? What are the strategic plans for more vineyards? Is it more people? What's the growth look like for the company?
Well, first of all, we are Willamette Valley Vineyards is the #1 producer of Oregon Pinot Noir over $20 a bottle in the nation. So we lead the nation in terms of the product that we focus on from Oregon. And we have well over 500 acres of vineyards that we manage directly and that we staff and farm. We'll be continuing to plant more vineyards and build more production capacity. We sold, for example, over 200,000 cases of wine last year. That's big for Oregon. You know, we have something like over 750 Oregon wineries. The average size is about 5,000 cases. And this harvest will go to 260,000 cases in production. There is no kind of lifestyle limitation on where we're going to take this company for our investors. We're going to continue to grow it rapidly and smartly.
Outstanding. Really exciting looking at the future there. And you also mentioned all of these other, French wineries and other nationalities and brands moving into the Oregon region. Take us through the competition side of the business a little bit. What other competitors are there to Willamette? Obviously, you guys are one of a kind with what you do and who you are. But what does the rest of the wine industry look like in terms of competitors and other people in the space?
You know, for us, we have few competitors because of our scale. But we do have Jackson Family, for example, who has come into Oregon there. But we've learned a lot from them, so it's actually produced a benefit for us. Bollinger, for example, the great French champagne producer, just purchased a winery here in the North Willamette, Ponzi. What Oregon has the benefits, actually, Oregon benefits and the Willamette Valley benefits from these new players, because they give us a tipping point of energy and influence in the national and international markets. So we actually welcome them because of the strength and the reach that it gives our industry.
Wonderful. Makes a lot of sense. And a last point here, too, before we close. You've given us a lot of info about Willamette and what you guys do. Is there anything specific that you would point out to retail investors, right, which is our audience and who's here at Benzinga consuming our news? Anything that you would give to the retail investor audience for things to look ahead to from Willamette? Anything they should know right now about the business? Anything significant you'd want to share there?
Absolutely. You know, I'm to your listeners and viewers, if you drink wine, you might as well own the winery. And here's the advantage that you get. Not only is your investment well supported by the equity in the company, but you get a lot of owner benefits. You get 25% off on all of, from bottle one. You get free tastings every month where you can bring your friends that otherwise you'd pay a $20 charge for each one of them. You get tours and tours that are scheduled each month that would up to 8 people that could cost you $30 a person. So that's a $240 savings on a monthly basis there. But the other is that the dividend that you earn from the WVVIP stock can be converted into a wine credit for 15% more. You know, we have in this offering that we're doing right now, we're selling stock for $5.25 a share with a yield of 4.19%. But we offer 15% more value for those who convert it to a wine credit. And you know, we've had 82% of all those new preferred shareholders choosing the wine credit.
Wonderful. A message to the retail investors there, and certainly a reason to get involved with Willamette, as I know we already are. You guys were generous enough to offer to send us some products, and I know the team is very, very excited to sample them and give some feedback and tell you what we think. So, Jim, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here. Thank you so much for joining us on All Access.
It's great talking to you. I really appreciated this. Thank you.